Today I wanted to show you guys how, at least I'm going to go about painting the pulley cover that goes in here for the supercharger belt. That's the belt for all the accessories, water pump, oil pump, things like that. But then they have a cage that's in here, another belt sits on that, and that's what goes up to the supercharger. And that's what we have sitting right here with the tensioner. This, and there's a snub bracket over here. That's all for the supercharger pulleys to keep tension. I changed my stock ones out, and they turn into these billet flow ones that I got. That's the snub bracket that I was talking about. It goes on the top of that little bracket over there, and your belt's gonna have to come off. I don't have footage of me taking it off, but you do have to disconnect my blower is off anyway, so this was easy for me. But this water pump for the supercharger will come out and be disconnected over here or here, whichever one's easiest for you to get to. That one is easiest for me because it attaches to this pipe right here. So that's gonna get disconnected. There's a bolt. There's a stud here that the nut goes on. There's a bolt right here that screws in. Let's see, there's another nut here for this stud, a screw here, and then I believe that's it. There's a couple more. So there's 2 screws here, and that corresponds to this side. And then there's 2 nuts and a screw here, bolt, screw, same thing, corresponds to this side. So I'll show you when it goes back on more in detail, but that's the basics. Alright, so we're going to be painting this bracket, the one that holds all the pulleys. I don't know if anyone may want it, but that's the part number on it. I don't know, just in case. But what I'm using today is some dish soap with some water because it'll fight all the grease. A Scotch-Brite pad to rough it up a little bit. Hopefully the paint will adhere a little bit better that way. So I have Scotch-Brite pad and then this nail brush that I can get into all these tiny little crevices with and really get it clean so that the paint adheres as well as possible. The paint I'm using is this VHT high temperature Wrinkle Plus 350 Fahrenheit paint. I actually got this initially to paint my valve covers black, but they are, especially the driver's side one here, it's more of a pain to get it out than I ever thought. So I'm not going to do that anymore, but it's high temp paint, it's on the motor, it has a wrinkle finish, so I think that'll look pretty cool. So now to start off, what I'm just going to do is just get the Scotch-Brite pad wet with the soap. I'm not going to try to scrub on this bearing too much, get too much water around there. I might wipe the area down, but that's going to be covered up when I paint. I don't really want to touch that too much. You don't want to rust the bearing, then that's just bad news. But these bolts and everything, I'm okay with painting. This I want to paint definitely just so it stays clean, stops rust from forming, things like that. I want to definitely get all this stuff covered up, and just be careful with this because you really don't want to get that to rust up and it just cause you headaches. So I was scrubbing around a little bit, cleaned it up decently well, but I'm not done yet. I actually was scrubbing around, figured out that getting back in this corner is really hard with this on. And there's bolts, these 3 right here, and I was kind of experimenting with it, and I was like, you know what, might as well just take them off. So I did. They are 10mm, and they're kind of tight, but what I did was I have a 10 extension in my ratchet, and I put it on here, and I just keep constant tension with one hand, and on the other hand you just tap the end of the socket and it'll just knock it loose real quick. And so I did that, and now we can, that one's still kind of tight, isn't it? Yeah, but we can unscrew the so now that that is off, those 3 bolts, I have a lot more room to get up in here, clean this out. I can probably clean this up tape this wheel off on the pulley and maybe make a better product. Now when I put it back together, I'll probably paint these two separately, but I'll have these bolts sitting in here exactly in the place where they'll sit. And then also, I guess I can show you guys real quick for the install where these go. So I said there was two on the left side. Those go here and here. They'll be sitting in there when I paint it, and it'll have the same effect this will by being black. And then on the other side, there was one bolt and two nuts. Now the bolt will go down here on this hole at the bottom right of the piece, and then these two screws, they're what's going to screw onto the pulleys on the end. So one goes here on the end of this pulley, and one goes here on the end of this pulley. These will be taped off because I don't want this mounting surface for the bearings to get any thicker or change at all. So that's going to be carefully taped. So that'll just make your life easier if you're doing this. Just take that off. It's three 10mm bolts. Don't over torque them though when you put them back on. Like, you want them tight, but you got to remember you don't want to strip this stuff. If you strip this whole piece needs to be, either that hole needs to be tapped or this whole piece needs to be replaced. So you just want to be careful you're not like cranking down on them too hard when you put it back together, and then all your work goes to crap. Alright, so I have everything clean, set up, ready to paint on my cardboard here. Don't want to ruin the grass. To block off this pulley, there's a damp paper towel I use to wipe everything down, and it actually forms around it perfectly for when I hit it from the top, which is really what I'm going to do. Now what you want to do here, I was trying to explain this earlier, but if you look at this, you can see on the top here, where is it? On the top here, there's a little bit of silver. And if I pull it out, you can see a bunch of silver. That's untouched metal. That's metal that's been protected by the bolt. So what you want to do is make sure you cover all that up. And then what will happen is you'll paint all around it, everything else but the untouched metal. And then when you put the bolt back through, truck went by. Okay, and then when you put the bolt back through, when you bolt it up to the car, it'll look just like this. So everything that's not untouched metal will be black, instead of having like random, like it won't go back the same. Just if you do this, it'll look really clean. Everything else is lined up and ready to be painted. I'm gonna do both sides, maybe not both sides of the tensioner, both sides of the bracket would probably be a good idea. And then the two bolts I have that go and hold the pulleys in place, those I put through the cardboard in here. I mean, cardboard's soft, you can push it through. And that way I don't gum up the threads, I just get the head. I'm just gonna paint it on the top anyway, because that's all you're ever gonna see of it. So yeah, we'll get painting and I'll show you what the first coat looks like. Also remember, I have to tape off these hubs, I guess you could call it, on the mounting surface for the pulleys. Don't want that to get messed up at all. So I gotta cover up this, cover up these mounting surfaces, and then we can start painting. And I'll show you what the first coat looks like. Alright, first coat is on. Looks good. No runs, is light enough, but heavy enough to get some coverage down. So it looks really clean. Starting to see that crinkle finish start. Kind of looks like really thin rhino liner is the best I can explain it. Like truck bed liner. You know, it looks really cool. Looks clean. Give this like 10 minutes dry, cure. Apply a second coat, and just remember guys, take your time. I did tape off the center here, you can see the tape in there. And then I taped off just the top and the sides over here. But yeah, just remember, take your time. It's really, all that prep work goes to crap if you mess up now, so take your time. Light coats, just however many times you need to go over it. Plus, more coats, the more even, the better it looks. Coat 2 is now on. Definitely looking good. You can see the crinkle finish starting to come out. Alright, so I just finished getting everything back together. So it came out. Came out really well. The heads of the bolts, focus, those are really clean, they look good. I love the finish, the crinkle black, or wrinkle black, one of those. But yeah, that's the finish. This is what it looks like as a finished product. Looks very, very clean. I like it. It will match very well. And then I'll show you the reinstallation, and there we go. So it's all painted, it's in the car. To get this in the car, there is a long screw here that is that screw. Then there's this long one here, it's identical to it on the other side. The best way to get to putting it in is to take this side here, and drop it in first, and then turn it, and then line it up on these. This reservoir here for your power steering, you're gonna have to unbolt that and take the bracket out. That's not too bad, it just sits there, it's not a big deal. And then I found it easy to take the connection here for the supercharger coolant pump, you could say. Yeah, take this off, and then because it feeds down under the coolant tubes here and it gets in the way. But if you take it off, then this sits freely and you can move it around however you need to. So now the bolts we have to put it back together, we have a large nut here, a bolt here, and the small nut that I was talking about earlier. And on this side we have just the bolt and the nut. Now the nut on the right side will go onto this long screw here. This bolt here that corresponds to this side goes down here, and there's a little cutout right here. I don't know if you can see, it bends right there. Under here there's a hole, and that's where you want to slide this guy. Okay, so you screw that in and tighten that down. And then on this side, again, the large nut here corresponds to this stud that the bracket mounts onto. And then this bolt, just like the other side, goes down here on the edge. You guys can see that, yeah, down here on the edge, and screws in there and mounts to this side on the left side of the motor when you're looking at it. And then the tiny, tiny little nut here that we have, the one I didn't know it came from, I forgot about. All it does is this black canister here has a bracket. You can bend that out of the way, and then we just want to, the idea, let's see, right hand here. All right, the idea is just push this back onto that stud, you can call it. And it goes all the way on. You gotta work with it a little bit, bend it. It'll bend. And then you take your nut here, and this thread's on the end of that, and holds that in place. And you make sure that's adjusted tight after you do this bolt here that holds the bracket on, and after you do all of these mounting bolts. Come back to the small one last and make sure that this bracket that holds the canister up is secured correctly. Just for peace of mind, just for clean installation. But yeah, that's how you put it back together. So I'm gonna tighten those up, and that's basically the finished product. It's black now, looks really clean. I like it a lot. It's definitely worth what it's taking me, what, 3 hours to do this, but good clean work. Won't have to touch it. Looks good with the motor after being all clean. Let me know what you guys think. Any questions, concerns? I might be able to remember what goes on. And then obviously this, which I kept clean, this mounting surface and this mounting surface are for the idler pulleys which go on, and then the snub bracket goes in here and sits right there. And that's your install. And now you have a clean black looking, you can do whatever color you want, mine's black, supercharger pulley bracket. Yeah, let's go with that. So yeah, you guys have fun. Let me know how it goes. See you later.